It's also, in many areas, a win-win relationship in the sense that our trade and investment flows produce gains for China and gains for the United States. And much of it is uncontroversial, should thrive, and it would really be disastrous to try to decouple from China.
That's right. It would be a total disaster to cut ties with China. From Trump's trade war and the whole Huawei and 5G drama to Biden's export controls and the push for American businesses to come back home, Washington's attempts to decouple from China are getting wilder by the day. When we think about the relationship between the United States and China, it's easy to get caught up in the tension, trade wars, and political maneuvering. But if you dig a little deeper, it's clear that America might actually need China more than China needs America. Let's break this down with 3 key points. Number 1, the lifeline of affordable goods. Have you ever looked at the tags on your clothes, checked the label on your electronics, or glanced at the bottom of your new furniture? Chances are you'll see "Made in China." The United States imports roughly $500 billion in goods from China every year. We're talking about everything from the clothes you wear to the shoes on your feet, the gadgets you can't live without, and even the couch you crash on after a long day. For many Americans, especially those in low-income households, these imports are a lifeline. Why? Because they help keep prices low. Imagine if everything you bought suddenly cost twice as much because it was made domestically or imported from a more expensive country. For a lot of people, that would be a real problem. Affordable goods from China mean that families can stretch their budgets further, getting more bang for their buck. Without these imports, the cost of living would shoot up, and the impact would be felt hardest by those who can least afford it. Number 2, a lucrative market for American exports. On the flip side, China isn't just a source of goods, it's also a massive market for American products. With a growing middle class that's hungry for everything from luxury items to tech gadgets, China represents a goldmine for U.S. businesses. American companies aren't just shipping products to China, they're setting up shop there too. US-owned affiliate companies in China are selling hundreds of billions of dollars worth of goods and services every year. Take Apple, for example. China is one of its biggest markets. If Apple suddenly lost access to China, it would be like cutting off a major artery in its business. And it's not just tech. Think about the auto industry, agriculture, and even Hollywood movies. China's middle class is expanding, and with that expansion comes an insatiable demand for high-quality goods and services, many of which are American-made. And number 3, the financial cushion of China's investments. Then there's the financial side of things. Did you know that China owns about $1 trillion in U.S. Treasury bills? That's a huge chunk of America's debt, and it plays a critical role in keeping our economy stable. How? By helping to keep interest rates low. When interest rates are low, borrowing is cheaper. That means lower mortgage payments for homeowners, more affordable car loans, and even lower interest on credit cards. But it's not just individuals who benefit. The federal government saves tens of billions of dollars thanks to these lower rates. That's money that can be put towards infrastructure, education, healthcare, or even reducing the national debt. If China decided to dump these treasuries, interest rates would skyrocket, and the ripple effect would be felt throughout the entire economy. Why U.S. companies just can't quit China? No matter how much political pressure builds up, U.S. companies aren't packing their bags and leaving China anytime soon. Why? It all boils down to 2 things: China's unbeatable supply chain ecosystem and its massive, ever-growing consumer market. Let's start with the supply chain. China isn't just a place to get things made. It's where the entire process happens, all under one roof, so to speak. Imagine you're producing a hoodie. You need more than just fabric. You need zippers, cords, dyes, and all those little pieces that come together to make a finished product. China has mastered the art of keeping everything close, right from the cotton fields to the factory floor. China has perfected this process, becoming the go-to place for manufacturing just about anything. They even import cotton from all over the world, including a big chunk from the US, which makes up about 35% of the global supply. This cotton is processed, turned into fabric, dyed, sewn into clothes, and then shipped back to the US and beyond as finished products. The whole operation is so tightly knit that if a US retailer wanted to move production out of China, they'd basically have to move the entire ecosystem with it. And that's not just a hassle, it's expensive. So as long as China has this super efficient, well-oiled machine of a supply chain, they're going to keep their massive share of the world's manufacturing. The cost of leaving is just too high. Next, let's talk about China's massive consumer market. Picture this. Tesla's success in China is off the charts. Did you know that China has had the largest automotive industry in the world since 2008? And as of 2024, it's also the biggest market for cars, both in terms of sales and ownership. For Tesla, China is crucial. More than half of the world's total EV sales come from China, and nearly a quarter of Tesla's revenue last year came from Chinese customers. Tesla's story isn't unique. Over 1 million international companies operate in China, and instead of leaving, many are deepening their ties with Chinese partners. Take Audi, for example. They're building their first EV plant in China. KFC just opened its 10,000th store in Hangzhou, which is wild when you consider there are only about 4,300 KFCs in the entire US. Starbucks is also betting big on China, aiming to have 9,000 stores there by 2025. Even Apple, which has been shifting some of its supply chain to Southeast Asia due to the US-China tech conflict, is still deeply connected to China. Chinese suppliers now make up the largest group in Apple's supply chain, growing to 52 in 2023 from 48 the year before. And the trend doesn't stop there. According to a 2022 report by the American Chamber of Commerce in South China, over 70% of U.S. companies in China had reinvestment plans for 2022, with an estimated $26.5 billion being poured back into the Chinese market over the next 3 years. The bottom line is that China remains an attractive, almost irreplaceable hub for U.S. companies. With its unmatched supply chain ecosystem and a consumer market that's just too big to ignore, it's no wonder American businesses are tightening their ties with China instead of cutting them. Despite the political tensions, the economic realities make it clear China isn't going anywhere in the plans of U.S. companies. So, are businesses really pulling out of China? Has the West managed to break away from China? The answer is pretty straightforward. Our global economy is a tangled web of connections, so it is impossible to decouple from each other. What do you think about this video? Drop your thoughts and comments below. If you enjoyed watching, give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to stay updated and show your support.